Hey everybody, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. And as you know, every now and then we've been doing something special for Badfinger here. Of course, the relationship they had with the Beatles and being on the Apple label and working with the Beatles as well. But we've been in touch with the record label Y&T, which stands for Yesterday and Today. And they put out a whole bunch of worthwhile CDs and vinyl, which we'll talk about, on Badfinger and various members of Badfinger. And someday, if you haven't done so already, you'll be able to fill cubby holes like mine in the back with some of this material on Badfinger, like, for example, Shine On. This is a tribute to Pete Ham, various artists covering Pete's material. Also, most recently, the Ivies and How Much Is the Sky? Early demos of theirs back when Ron Griffiths was in the band. Also, Pete Ham's Gwent Gardens. That's a CD of demos that Y&T put out. Tom Evans also has a CD of demos called I Am Myself. Badfinger, the Head First album, finally was reissued by the label. So much worthwhile material right here. And we're happy to talk about it on this channel. Recently, we had Bob Jackson from the band to talk about Head First because he did all this reworking on the album. And we've also we recently just did a tribute to Joey Molland here on Ken Michaels Radio. And right now, we welcome back Tom Brennan, who's behind a lot of these releases. He's curated um, the material that's on there, the songs that are on there. And this is the most recent one, Pete Ham-Acoustic. So welcome back, Tom.
Thanks, Ken.
Tell me how this whole project came about for this particular approach and making it just acoustic guitar, because that's all that you will hear on this CD. It's just Pete playing acoustic guitar and his voice double tracked. I think some of the guitars are double tracked too, but it's strictly keeping it to the guitar.
It came as a result of when I was listing out all the potential demos Pete had for possible release. It turned out there was a lot of recordings that he played on acoustic guitar only. I listed out those that were piano based, guitar based, those that were finished, those that were just in the beginning stages that weren't that well developed.
Mhm.
So it turned out that there were a lot of songs just with Pete on a guitar and singing. So I I put those aside, and I remember that there was a John Lennon release years ago that was called John Lennon Acoustic. So I thought it would be a good idea to do a Pete Ham version of that.
That's an excellent idea right there. I love that approach. Um, just want to talk very briefly about the remastering of these recordings. Now, they stretch how many years? These
Um,
recordings are based from,
for this album was the entire span of his career from when the Ivies moved to London in 1966 all the way to the end of his life in 1975. So it's the whole time period, his whole life, the professional life
well, it's pretty
as a
remarkable
musician.
to me, even though it's just Pete with a guitar, it all sounds like it was recorded the same day, pretty much. And depending upon the recording, the sound of each recording, the guitar he was playing, the microphones you use, you know, even though it's stripped down to just Pete and a guitar, they could still sound atmospherically different, but they don't. It all sounds like it was done quickly, like an all one session, although it's a ton of songs here. It's 30 songs altogether on this compilation. But I think, who did the remastering for this?
Kevin McElligott.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
he deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, sound quality is absolutely excellent here. And, that's what a good remastering is right there. So there's a consistency in the sound.
Ironically, Pete's later recordings don't sound as good as the early ones. You would think it would be the other way around, but
Mm.
in the early days, Pete had a lot more time because the Ivies didn't go to America, so they weren't away traveling so much. So they were at home more, and Pete had a lot more time to put more effort into the recordings. So that's why you hear on the early recordings, Pete will be double tracking his guitar parts and adding extra vocals and harmonies. And on the later recordings, the last couple of years, he wasn't using the Revox tape machine, so he was only using like a cassette recorder, cassette tape.
Mm.
So those are pretty basic, just simple recordings into a cassette player. And a lot of those don't sound quite as good. Some of the songs on this album, you can hear the difference.
Well,
They're a little bit more cruder sounding, not as professional sounding.
there's one that sticks out for me, which is Suspicious, and that sort of has like a compressed feel to it. But for the most part, I think that most of the songs sound similar here.
Yes, Suspicious is one of the early ones from
Mm.
1966. Um, one of the first ones he did.
So, how did you go through the whole process of picking this material? Was this everything that was left, maybe that hasn't been released, or is there how much material is there when you look at all the demos that have been released so far? Is this like all that's really left that's worthwhile, or can we foresee more in the future?
There's one more CD worth of material in the future. For this one, I had to use a lot of alternate takes and alternate versions of songs because there just wasn't that many brand new acoustic songs to put on here. So a lot of them are alternates. It's not that many brand new songs to put on here.
Hmm.
So whatever's left from this is going to be on the last album, and that's the end of whatever he has. That's completely or a almost completely written song.
I tell you, listening to this CD is a joyous experience, but it's also a frustrating experience because to me, there's so much strong material here that I could have foreseen the band recording. And I guess in part because these songs were written before they had a record contract, some of them, they never saw the light of day as a band. But is there any evidence to know of any songs here that were considered for Badfinger or were brought to the band that they turned down? Because I hear so much stuff here. Pete had an amazing commercial ear, and there's so many hooks in these songs where I could hear a hit record. And the frustrating part about listening to all this is knowing all this stuff that I believe should have come out or developed a little bit more. But at the same time, it also tells you how prolific the guy was with all this extra material that never came out, a lot of it before they got a record deal, but even while they were a band.
Yeah, there's no way to know when they what they offered to the band. Badfinger didn't really have that many outtakes, so it's really hard to know. Nobody's ever talked about what Pete offered that wasn't used. There's only one I know of, Coppertone Blues, that Badfinger tried to record, but they tried totally rearranging it and speeding it up, and it just didn't work. They never even put a vocal on it. It was just like an instrumental track. Um, but Joey Molland was a pretty prolific writer in the 70s, so a lot of Pete's songs just got tossed aside and never even got played to the band, probably
Hmm.
because at some point I think he lost some confidence and was embarrassed to offer his songs. That's why um, the one album has only Timeless and Apple of My Eye. He was he was losing his confidence a little bit and didn't think his material was good enough.
And Head First only has two songs of Pete.
Yeah, Head First was a lot of they decided to do all brand new material. They didn't want to use older songs. They wanted to write all brand new songs for that album. They wanted it all to be fresh.
there's a number of songs on here that are extremely brief, under a minute long. And how do you decide whether or not those are worthwhile to listen to? Because sometimes you can barely get the full feel of a song. You might get a verse and a chorus, but not much more. Um, how do you decide whether or not that this is actually worth putting into the collection?
Um, Two criteria really. It's catchy and it has lyrics that are understandable and have some kind of message. Um, that's pretty much it. Um,
Like, for example, a little bit of rock and roll, which starts the CD off. It's catchy, it's very short, and I could see some potential in it, but we don't know any more other than this. For
yeah,
all for all these short songs, are there any other recordings of these songs longer?
no, these are the best recordings of all these songs that I could find.
Because I made a note of Little Bit of Rock and Roll, I Need Your Love is very short, Look Around is way too short. Let's Get Together. Let's Get Together is a song that I hear as a hit record.
Yeah, me too. That's one of my favorites of all these short, unfinished songs.
Yeah. It's just when you realize the potential of, you know, what more of what this band could have released. Um, Maybe part of the problem with Badfinger, kind of like the Beatles, is there was too much talent in the group.
Exactly. There's too many writers and too much talent.
Yeah.
All four of them. They really had they had more writers than the Beatles because Mike Gibbons wrote a lot more songs than Ringo. Ringo only wrote a couple of songs. Mike Gibbon wrote a couple of dozen songs almost.
Yeah.
He,
The one on Head First is one of my favorite ones. Back again.
again, in the meantime, had a lot of songs.
Yeah, I'm
It
just
had
talking.
to be. My heart goes out.
Was it? I'm sure I spoke about this with you, but was it a very competitive feeling within all four members?
No, it was never competitive. They were always very supportive of each other. Especially Pete. He was supportive of the others. He was always excited when somebody else came up with a song, and he always was willing to help them finish writing it or recording a demo for it.
Hmm. Oh, that's a sign of a good band. I know when I've spoken to Joey Molland, he thought so highly of the other three and thought the
Yeah.
world of Pete.
Pete was always willing to help Joey, by writing guitar solo for one of his songs,
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, I want to tell you that the four songs that are on here that the band eventually released are really treats. The biggest one of all is We're for the Dark, which could have been released just like this. It's that good and it's that close to the original, although there's a change in the words there. You know, We're for the Dark, baby, you and me
Me, yeah.
instead of I, but otherwise, the whole song pretty much is kind of finished. It's good just the way it was. And just as an acoustic song by itself, it's precious.
And also Midnight Sun. That's Pete's demo of Midnight Sun is probably my favorite version. It's just so tight and it's perfect. Just the whole performance is perfect.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's what Ron Griffiths used to learn the song when the Ivies did it. And then, of course, after that, Ron got the chicken pox and Pete ended up singing it. But, Pete sings better on the demo than he does on the final recording. Maybe that's why Ron made that, or maybe that's why Pete made that joke to Ron that he messed it up. He
I love
didn't.
Pete's vocals on the version that came out. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Well, yeah, it was fine. It's good, but I mean, when you hear this demo is just so good. It's so perfect. It really it's Pete's best performance of it, I think. It's
Hmm.
just so well done.
And then there's the song that became Perfection. That's very interesting. to itself. Um, Especially
Yeah,
'cause he's missing some lyrics in there. Listen to my song, and you don't hear of life
uh, a
in.
lot of Pete's songs he wrote the music first, so that sounds to me like he was just making up anything just to fill it in until he could write the words later on. He was just trying to get the tune down
Hmm.
on tape, and then probably figured, oh, I'll do the lyrics later. They're really junk lyrics. I was actually working on trying to figure them out a little bit better this past week. So trying to, but it's obvious that he's thinking while he's playing, like trying to make things up because a lot of it's he's mumbling. He
Uh,
doesn't have anything. He's just kind of doing it on the fly, like trying to make it up.
a lot of artists operate that way, and it's just interesting to hear the development, you know. Also, I Can't Take It, the demo of that. That's from early 1970 with Slapback Echo, and I thought that was excellent.
That's an interesting one. How he was so technically smart with the recording equipment and electronics. He was able to figure out how to do that echo effect on a demo tape. It's pretty impressive.
Hmm.
Pete was also good at doing backwards guitar. He could do that on demos. He learned a lot from his brother John, and he had a because his brother John had a TV repair shop. So Pete was always able. He was also able to fix amplifiers himself. Just soldering parts and making repairs to his amplifier. So he was pretty good with electronics.
Is his brother still alive?
No, he passed away about 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if he could have shed some light about Pete's music and Badfinger's music and from his own observations if he was there.
Yeah, there's very few interviews with him.
Hmm.
He's in a few of the documentaries.
There's um there's a couple of instrumentals on here which are kind of interesting. There's Pete's Postcard and Pete's Idea. And it really has this kind of Latin feel to it on guitar. Is there any evidence that Pete was really into that kind of style or listening to that kind of music at all, other than coming up with this?
Uh, yeah, he was really into all kinds of music. He didn't want to stick to one style. So he absorbed everything pretty much from jazz to blues to rock to pop, country, everything. He wasn't um, he wasn't discriminating against any kind of music. He listened to everything he could and to get the inspiration from it.
Hmm. Did he feel that being in the band was what was most suitable for him, or did he feel in some ways kind of inhibited because his music is so diverse, that maybe he'd be confined more being in a band?
I really he because he wrote so many different songs. He That's why a lot of them ended up on these demo recordings because they weren't suitable for the band. So well, that's why a lot of them were scrapped because they weren't appropriate for a rock group to do them.
Mm. But the mere fact that he wrote all this stuff, do you know if he ever contemplated putting out a solo album or anything solo?
He never did, but near the end, there were stories that Stan Polly was shopping a solo deal for Pete Ham in the later years, but it never went anywhere. Um, but I don't think he really wanted to be a solo artist. He always enjoyed playing in a band.
Yeah. It's just that when I hear all these different styles being presented here, and I never really heard Pete play like this with these instrumentals.
Yeah,
So,
it's totally different style than Badfinger. And he just played whatever he enjoyed playing.
yeah.
He wasn't always writing. Sometimes he just, for his own enjoyment, he just, you know, like the rock and roll stuff, he just started jamming for himself for his own enjoyment.
Well, I guess that's part of the reason why we should be enjoying these recordings here because it's stuff that he probably couldn't record with the band because there was so much material that all four of them were coming up with at the same time.
Mm.
But what songs do you think? Because I wrote down on so many of these songs has potential in my notes here. Which ones do you think were kind of the strongest or ones that you could have conceived the band doing? Are there any that really stand out for you? Because Let's Get Together is one for me.
Probably Our Song is a good ballad. That's the most commercial sounding to me. And maybe Rusty Sunday. It's another good one. Uh,
I got,
Something to Hide, possibly.
yeah.
Um,
There's one moment here on the CD where like every song in a row, it's like the greatest block of songs. Because I really love One Lonely Day, Our Song, then We're for the Dark, Hand in Hand. Well, Look Around is too short. But that particular block of songs, I think, is like real strong moment on the CD.
yeah, I agree with that. Then later on, he gets into the blues improvising, and the one about May Pang. On the previous album, there was May Blues. This version mentions John, but he never says the name May in the lyrics. I I was expecting to find a demo where he said May and mentioned John in the same take, but for some reason there's two different takes and neither one has both elements on it, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting that because of the way Dan talked about it in his Badfinger book. It seemed like they were both elements were in the same demo recording, but that's not how it turned out. I wasn't able to find one demo that included both of those elements.
What specifically is the song about with John and May? Is there a message he's trying to say with it? Because in Hey Blues, well, that's what it's called here.
Yeah,
I can't talk about John in the song.
yeah. I can never figure out exactly what he was trying to say there. It's not clear, except it seemed to me like this was just like an improvised song, one of those things where he's making up the words and just trying different. Just keep. I think he kept playing it, and just making up words as he played along with it. So I don't think he ever had any finished lyrics that were final. He was just improvising. I don't think it was a real song. It was just something he thought about because Badfinger met May Pang when they first came to New York when they played in Ghana's club in 1970. So when that was when May first started working for Apple and Alan Klein in the
Mhm.
Apple office. So that's when and Pete and May were always good friends from the beginning, and May remained friends with Joey also for his whole
I
life.
know. I remember seeing her posts when Joey passed away.
They always stayed in touch.
Yeah. Um, You're Such a Good Woman. It's a really great song. The original demo from 1973, uh, that's the one on here.
Yeah, I
And
wanted people to hear the raw recording of that to see uh, how it started. Dan Matavina did a fully produced production on that with a lot of overdubs. So I wanted to hear people to hear how the Pete's raw performance sounded because it's just so good.
yeah, it's just remarkable. It's like I said, I hear these songs and I wish there were band arrangements, that Badfinger would have applied to them. But I'm grateful that we have these. Um, yeah, what is Slug all about? That's a pretty unusual one.
Yeah, that was a that was a joke recording. I think Pete was just hanging around with his girlfriend and just talking and just it came out of a conversation maybe he was having, and he just kind of made it up.
Okay. He just compares to slugs to chickens and ducks in the song. It's
It's
even
just,
fascinating if it's something that you're making up on the spot, man. It's just there for us to listen to. All right. So, I really appreciate the fact that this compilation was put together. Did you ever talk to any of the widows of the members of Badfinger as far as all this stuff that's been released and how they feel about it? Or
I haven't directly myself. Usually, Mark Strothman, he's takes care of that, and he deals with all the estates, and helping him out usually with all the musical details and the recordings, and the history.
Hmm,
So, but he does all the relations with all the estates and all the negotiation and getting all the approvals.
okay. Would you say if you know that they're very sensitive to what comes out on the band members?
So far, they've been very appreciative and very enthusiastic about what we've done so far. Um, they've approved everything that we've done, and thought we did a great job on it, and appreciated that we're keeping the music alive and getting all these things out, and saving it for history.
Are there any songs here on this compilation that were shortened because a lot of songs were faded and they may have been faded early for various reasons? And I don't know if
Mm.
maybe there might have been imperfections on the tape, or maybe the performance later on in the song wasn't that good, so it was just faded early.
Most of the ones that are faded are because the recordings got rough edges at the end. The only
Hmm.
one actually that was edited was Suspicious. There was a introduction that we decided was too corny. We cut it off. So that's really the only one that was missing part of the song, but it's only a few seconds. It's just a little introduction. Um, but most of them are just smoothing out the rough edges in the beginning and the ending. We tried to preserve the countins at the beginning as much as possible.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom, for coming on my channel here and talking about this. You did say there's like another CD's worth of material, um, of Pete that could come out.
Yeah, there's another full CD that's going to come out, and we're planning on uh, 2027 for that. We're going to wait a little while. There's other projects in between. We're working on a Mike Gibbons demo collection.
Wow.
So so we got Ellie Gibbons is working with us, and co-op is giving her approval for us to put together a collection, and
Hmm,
also Mike's sons too. They're helping us out, um,
nice. I
with
may
background
have
information.
I may have asked you this before, but did you ever meet any of the four members? The Badfinger with the most well-known lineup. Did you ever?
Yeah, yeah. I've met Mike at Beatlefest before, and I met Joey at one of his concerts.
So what was that experience like for you for meeting both of them?
I really didn't get to talk to Joey much, but Mike Gibbons, I did. I got to get his autograph at Beatlefest, and talk to him. Also, communicated by email with him one time. There was a live album that came out, and I exchanged some emails with them and helped him with the. Um, that's kind of funny. That one he put out the live concert and had the wrong year on it. It was 1983. He put it out, and I emailed him and corrected him. It was 1982, and he gave me a funny response back that hey, you know more about me than I do. Thought it was pretty humorous. Mike got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
He was always funny.
And Just very quickly, what did you think of the Head First release and the work that Bob Jackson did?
Him and Andy Nixon did a fantastic job making it sound contemporary for 1975,
Hmm.
and cleaning it up and making it sound like what should have come out in 1975 rather than like today. I'm glad they didn't make it sound like something modern. It wouldn't have fit in with Badfinger's catalog of albums.
Yeah. Is there anything that you could possibly tell us about, well, when I had Bob on, and he couldn't have been nicer, like he might be involved with more projects, further on down the road. If there's anything maybe you could tell us.
Yeah, yeah. Bob's going to be involved in more projects. A lot of them are. I can't talk about them yet because they're still preliminary stages and getting the planning stages. Still a lot of work to be done to get them started. There's research being done.
Oh, that's
So,
that's great. I mean, for fans of Badfinger, this material keeps coming out.
but there's a lot of things coming in the future. It's just a lot to deal with right now, and a lot of things happening in parallel. So it's just a matter of which ones get ready first.
All right.
So
Well,
we'll have more news in the next year. I think next year will be a lot of releases in 2026. Should be a lot of things coming.
interesting. Keep me abreast of all of them.
Um, this year, the only release coming up will be another Ivy's collection. We're trying to get that out for in October.
How
That'll
many
be
more? How
that'll
many?
be volume 5, and then there'll be a volume 6 after that of
Wow.
demos.
Who would have thought there's this much material?
Yeah, the Ivies did a lot. They were trying to learn how to write songs, so they had a lot of material.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear some of Ron Griffith's songs too.
We have a lot of Mike Gibbons songs coming.
Hmm. So thank you, Tom, for spending this time with us. Oh, by the way, how many copies were made of the CD and of the vinyl?
Of which album?
Oh, yeah, of Pete Ham, of Acoustic.
Oh, acoustic. There's no vinyl planned yet for that. It's there were 1,000 CDs made originally, and then there were another 500 just made recently.
Okay.
So it's 1,500 total. That's it.
Oh, how come no vinyl so far?
There's just too many other projects going on. With Rich at Y&T is just really busy. So many projects, so we have to put that off until later.
Okay. Well, thanks for spending time with us. Keep up the good work, you and Rich and everyone involved with these Badfinger and solo Badfinger releases. And a big thank you to every one of you who have watched this. And we'll keep you posted on more Badfinger news and releases right here. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Ken.